All right, so from the last time, right, where we completed the punctuation, paragraphing, and I'll share, as I was saying, the answers for the paragraphing exercise, so you can check it against however you have edited the text that I gave you uh, in terms of breaking it into paragraphs. Okay, you can do that later. I'll share the answers with you. Now, what we'll be doing today are going into reading skills. We'll talk about skimming, scanning, and intensive reading, right? And identifying relevant points, interpreting those from the details, understanding context and contextual meaning as far as vocabulary is concerned. Okay, and obviously later on we'll talk about writer's meaning and effect and how to attempt those questions. And what I'll be using is are the latest papers available, which are from the October-November 2024 series. Okay, so this is going to be a more practical, hands-on uh, learning experience. So you can see on screen, right? This is the insert for the reading paper from October 2024, and this is from variant 11. This is not the one that is conducted in Pakistan, right? But it is a Cambridge paper nonetheless, so it's relevant to us. And here is the text, right? There are two texts over here. Text A is the one which will be used for comprehension questions, and text B will be the one used for summary questions. Okay. Now, before reading it, how to attempt a comprehension question, like the whole thing, all the questions, part question one, question two, right? The regular reading for understanding questions and the writer's meaning and effect questions. So what you want to do is first you want to read the entire text. Now there are a few different ways in which reading can happen. And I have explained this in the earlier classes, but there's no harm in doing a quick recap. So, right, there are three different approaches to reading that can be done, right? And those are skimming, right, scanning, and intensive reading. There's another one that is extensive reading, which is not at all relevant to our preparation. So I'm not going to go into that. Right? Now, both of skimming and scanning are reading techniques, and they are speed reading techniques. Right? For skimming, you're only trying to understand the gist, right, or the main idea, or the topic or theme of the text, what it's talking about, and some the more prominent details that you pick out just by quickly going over the text, not reading it word for word. Scanning is when you are looking for specific information. Right? So skimming is something that you do, for example, if you're reading the news or just glancing over the a particular article that maybe the headline seemed interesting to you, stuff like that. Maybe you're looking at a menu card, for example. Right? Depends on the situation. Scanning, as you right, looking for specific information. So maybe you are looking at your timetable, or the bus schedule or the flight schedule, or again, right, maybe looking at a menu card, looking for your favorite dish if it's available, right, or the cost, right? So those are those techniques. Intensive reading is reading the text thoroughly, right, word for word, line for line. You're not going, I mean, it's not like you can just take like half an hour to read it, but you're not just looking at it, you're actually reading, right, word for word, line for line, sentence for sentence. You're going to read everything. properly. Okay. You obviously do need a particular speed for your reading because you have limited time to attempt it, your paper, right? The reading paper and the writing paper are about 2 hours long. And so to evenly split that, you want to spend about an hour on the comprehension and about an hour on doing the summary, right? Now you can obviously, change those times depending on how well you attempt a particular question. Maybe you're faster in attempting a summary than you are in answering a comprehension. Maybe you leave 45 minutes for the summary and you give an hour and 15 minutes to the comprehension. That depends on the student individually, right? Now, when attempting a comprehension, right, the best way is to train yourself before looking at the comprehension questions, right? So before going in and looking at the questions, read the text and read it intensively, intensive reading, read it the whole thing, right? Starting from, and obviously when you have the paper in hand, right, read the instructions. Always read, fill out your name first, fill out your center number, candidate number first. And even if you've read this like 100 times during your practice, on exam day when you have the paper in your hand, right, read the instructions before starting. And then before going to the questions, open up your insert, right? And obviously read the instructions over here as well. For example, do not write your answers on this insert because it's not going to be checked then, right? And then you start from read text and answer question one. You know this is standard, but still read it. And then coming to the actual text, start from the introductory line. That will give you an idea of what the text is about, even though there will be no question asked about it, right? From these introductory lines, right? Any question asked will start from paragraph 1, line 1, right? You can see that the paragraph numbers are given to the left and the line numbers are given to the right. Okay. Read the whole thing, read it properly, don't rush through it. Okay. And once you've read it, you now know properly what the question, what the text is talking about. Once you know that, then, right, you're going to go to the question paper. And what you're going to do now is you're going to read again, right? Starting from section A, read this text, and then, right, answers questions 1 and 2, sure, right? And then you start with question 1, which are the reading for understanding questions, and you read all the questions, right? So, I mean, you can even, right, go and read, right, questions 2, right? So the writer's meaning and effect questions. So read all of them. Now you know what kind of questions are being asked. What you particularly need to be careful about, right? So why have I asked you to read all the questions? Because when answering questions in Cambridge, there is rarely, I'm not saying never, but there is rarely an overlap in the answers. Okay, so if you've written something for answer B or C, for example, then answer B or D will not have the same content for the answer as C, right? It's going to be something different. And so when you know what the next question is asking, then you know that whatever you're writing, if it's related to something that's being asked later, then maybe you're making a mistake. Okay, the answers to the questions are all sort of unique, if you'd use that word. Also, right, that holds more true if the question has parts like G, right? G1 and 2, right? And so you want to limit your answer, right, only to what is asked. Like, what is the problem? I haven't read the text, right? But they're asking what is the problem, and so you just mention what the problem is, right? Do not talk about the solution because the solution is being asked in the next part. Okay, so you need, because students actually mess this up. It seems very obvious. Unfortunately, students mess it up. Okay. Also, as you obviously are aware, right, the number of valid points that you need to give for the answer depends on its weightage. So if it's a 1-mark question, generally you need 1 valid point, right? 3-mark question, you need 3 valid points, depending on what the question is asking, right? 2 marks, 2 valid points. And also keep in mind, right, if they're asking for, if the question is worth 2 marks, right, Do not label your answer as 1 and 2 for the two different points for your answer, or do not put bullet points by yourself. If Cambridge has given bullet points for the answers, that means whatever two things they're asking for, if they put it in bold over here, then right, you'll put the first point in the first bullet point, the second point for the second bullet point, the second line. But because Cambridge has already provided you with that, if Cambridge has not provided you with bullet points, you will not make bullet points of your own. You will just write out two sentences giving the two answers. Okay, the 2 points for the answer. Sorry. These are explicit and implicit. So there are going to be some implicit questions, there are going to be some explicit questions. Okay. For question 1. Question 2, writer's meaning and effect, right? And even though the syllabus, I believe, does not mention that, doesn't call these implicit questions, they technically are. All right. So I hope that gives you an overview. And if anything else you need to, you've been practicing, obviously. So if there's anything else that you want to ask about how to attempt a comprehension, because now I'm going to share the text with you, right, on screen, and I want you to read it and try to read it, for example, in like 5 minutes, if possible, right? But read it properly. So I'm going to, go silent, and the text is on screen. Just tell me when you want me to scroll, because obviously, the whole text is not shown. So you can start reading. So have you finished reading this part of the text? So I can scroll further. All right, this is the last part of the text for the comprehension. So tell me when you're done and we can move to the questions. The timer has started for, the class. And so hopefully we can, at least get something done today. All right, so now that we're done reading, let's go back to the start of the text and let's go to the questions. Okay, now I know I said that, read all the questions, but, since our meeting is going to end in about 2 minutes, right? How about we start with, questions A, B, and C, for example. All right, so just read those 3 questions and, understand what they're asking, and then we can attempt possibly just like question 1A. All right, so in question 1A, now whenever you're reading a question, right, in fact, probably, let's see. So when you're reading a question, right, make sure that you understand, right? So in what way? So they're asking, so what they're asking for is, the geography, right? In what way does the geography something to do with the location, right? And some reason, because it's what way, in what way, right? And so a geographical reason that the Strait of Dardanelles make it one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Now, this doesn't, the reference to line 2 doesn't mean that the answer is in line 2. That means that this quote that they've taken, right, from the text is in line 2. So if you just go to the text, you can see, right, that's in line 2. Okay, but this is not where the answer is, right? And I'm going to stop actually, because the meeting is about to end, so we can pick up in next class and do the questions together.